It's raining.
It's about time. I think that the saying of when it rains, it pours is maybe came from Santa Barbara.
It came from a salt box. That's a Morton salt advertising
Oh,
tagline,
that's right.
right? When it rains, it pours, right? You got the
The
little
salt
girl with
still,
the
yeah, the
with the
salt still
umbrella, and
pours.
there's the little dog. Yeah, that's about salt, not about rain.
That's about Morton salt, isn't it? Son of a
Oh my
gun.
gosh. It's something when you wake up, you check the news, and you find out that your town is on the front page of the New York Times and the BBC. We've had a bit
Wow.
of rain here, my friend.
Are you guys flooded? Are you
We're
making?
we're fine, but we're up on a hill. Um,
Mhm.
but the town Santa Barbara's in a low line area. There's floodplains, there's all that stuff, and guess what? It floods. And but it's been an 8-year drought, so we're happy for the rain. We're happy we're doing the happy dance. And we want people to stay safe. So we're kind of constantly checking in with everybody, making sure,
Oh, perfect.
everybody's got their stuff set.
Hmm.
And in the nation on Friday, we post wins, right?
Hmm.
We don't focus on the negative. We focus, cut through everything and find the win. And the win I posted, because I try to play with that. I try to really be a part of that.
Hmm.
And I thought, what was the win this week? Because I feel like my life is a win. So singling one out is, that's, look, oh, there's the rain. Yay. I can hear it. I love the sound of rain. So it was that everybody had their hair on fire around here, around, evacuation and flooding, and our creek in the back was 3 foot above normal, and, all this stuff. And we said, well, what about, what if it floods? What if, and we have fire and we have flood and we have earthquake. Are you prepared?
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I don't think we need to worry about it. Great. We don't need to worry about it. Let's have a plan anyway. And
Mm.
then so we took 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, which is kind of going to lead to how we work with our mate, right?
Hmm.
Because I was fine. I knew we were going to be fine, but I knew she had anxiety around it, right? You couldn't help it. I mean,
Sure.
rain was coming down a lot. So it's like, okay, let's park the car so it's facing out from the garage so we can get out. Let's make sure the ladder is close, so if something happened fast, which it has here in the past, we can get up on the roof quickly.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now we have a plan. And everything just went.
Nice.
And I took that as the win. It's like when you're not sure what to do, I just stop for a couple of seconds. You can come up with a couple of one next actions. And
Right.
then you go, okay, great. Let's move on.
So here's what's interesting to me about what you're saying. You had many possible choices about how to respond to Kimberly.
Yes.
You could have gone, "Oh, sweetie, it'll be okay. Nothing will happen." You could have gone, "What are you so upset about?" Or you could have gone, "Oh, we'll have time." What you did was choose to connect with her concerns and work with those in a very, what it sounds like, integrous way.
When you mentioned the three choices I could have taken, those were all negating her
Hmm.
her emotions, right? And I'm going to get back to improv because it's kind of a big part of how we live our lives improvisationally. We all do that, and there are some rules around improv, and one of them is yes and so instead of
Hmm.
negating her concern and reading her emotionally, which is one of the things we do, is just like look at the other person. How often do we just not even do that? Just look
Yeah.
at them. What's their emotion? We've talked about this, like we talked about our whole body is emoting. How do
Hmm.
we do that? And so it was just a small little thing in a week of a lot of things where that operationalized the thing we talked about last, which was listening. And then how do I yes and that? Yes, I recognize the concern. And
Absolutely.
then there's this other little exercise we do at improv, which it might be good for couples to do. So you say something, and then I say, yes. And what that means is, and then you repeat what I said, and you say, yes. And what that means is, so
Mm,
when she says, um, gosh, I'm worried that the creek might overflow. Yes, you're worried that the creek might overflow. And what that means is you're not really going to be able to focus on anything until you get that settled. Yes, I'm not going to be able to focus on anything until I get that settled. And what that means, and what we're trying to do is discover the thing that's two levels below what you're saying.
right. That's underneath what's underneath.
Mhm.
Yeah. What is the difference from your perspective between that and just responding with from an intellectual basis of, for instance, yeah, the creek is 3 feet above normal, and responding going, well, the rain's supposed to stop in 2 hours and it's not going to get any higher and it'll be okay.
Again, negating her emotion,
Right.
right? So you said we've talked so many different times, which I love about this is that I can respond with my head, I can respond with my heart, or as you like to say, my pelvic floor, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
my gut, right?
Right.
And the gut was telling me, don't discount, pay attention. It only takes a second to refocus and then figure out what the emotion is and what that, and you don't have to say that out loud, but what that means is I need to be yes anding. I need to be here and calm this because because obviously she's not going to be able to. She's going to spin on that like
Mm-hmm.
whoa, right? Because it's all in the news and the rain's everywhere. So it's like, are we okay? To your point of as baby when it wake up, is the world okay? Yes.
Yes.
Am I okay? Yes. So that's part of us. It's like, is the world okay? I don't think so. I think we might be in danger.
So what you're saying is 1,000% right on. When we respond without taking into consideration what's going on with the other person, and let's stick with the creek's 3 feet above normal, and 5 more inches of rain is forecast, is the the anxiety first about the creek and the rain. But then if we respond through even what's quote logical, because a lot of men do this, well, it's logical that the creek isn't going to go up, another 3 feet in the next 10 minutes. It's what we're doing is not only negating what the other person is giving us, but we are adding to the anxiety. So now there's two problems instead of one.
By the way, I had responded earlier, but there's no way it can go 3 foot higher because
Oh,
5 years ago when we had the mudslide and the debris flow and all those hundreds of people lost their lives, all that stuff, I had walked the creek back up. I live in Montecito. It's not urban, but we're built on hillside. And I
mm,
followed the creek all the way back up. This is good mile and a half walk, and it cuts through neighborhoods and goes all the way back. But there's culverts it has to go through. It runs in
Mhm.
like on the front. There's no way it physically can't have that much water just the way the slope is. The 3 foot high is its highest it's ever been. Full stop. That did nothing. But to your point, that did nothing to alleviate the anxiety, the fear. And that's when I said, hold it, I need another tack here.
Mhm.
And let's not be the logical problem solving man, right?
Mhm.
Let's go emotionally and figure out what that means is there's some anxiety here. Let's see if we can figure that out, to your point.
Right. And we can still use our logic because, I mean, as you had mentioned, as we were getting ready for this morning, that you got a ladder out in case you needed to get on the roof and you turn your car so you could get out. Those are logical things too.
Yeah.
But they're logical things that create openings for our partner versus logical things that close those openings for our partner.
Instead of saying, bitch, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, my friend, we talked earlier about this conversation around integrity and
Mm,
how integrity shows up. And I think kind of part of that was a little bit about integrity. We've talked in the past about having an ethos and having some tenets and having some things that guide us, things in courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control,
mm,
indomitable spirit. Those are my five.
mm-hmm.
They, come from our dojo, and we've talked about those, but we've never
Would you say those one more time, please?
slowly.
Because slowly, because those are big deals.
Oh,
And
those are
then,
every time we get on the mat, we would say those five, and that before we got off the mat, we said those five. So I did that for years. There's no
mhm,
way that can't be in here. It's now genetically in me. Courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit.
mm, I love those.
I I told this story before. I'll tell it again. We have new listeners. My daughter was not happy with her work. This is 20 years ago. Not happy with the intensity of where she was having workouts. And Kimberly said, "Bring her to the dojo." And we invited her to the dojo, and she went on to get a black belt, and she's badass. And but I remember her calling me from work one day, and she was complaining about whatever is work. Work is work. And I said, oh, so that's what perseverance looks like. And she goes, Dad. I said, well, why do you think we have tenants? So that at times like this, you can go, I have an indomitable spirit. I will persevere. People are counting on me. I need to go home to my family and not bring my work with me, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So when we talk about integrity, I wonder sometimes, is there one of them that's more important than the others? And I've asked this question 100 times, and the answer is always no. But sometimes one is more important than the others.
Right. Some will emerge
Yeah,
into more of a figure instead of being into the ground,
yeah.
being a ground.
Here's a great integrity checker. I heard this once. What if you lived in a world where there was a camera right here that watched you all day long? Would you still do all the things you do?
Hmm. That's a good question.
That's a great integrity checker, isn't it?
Well, I'll answer that. I would say This is interesting. I would say probably 99% of what I do.
Yeah.
There still would be a 1% of it's like, I don't think so.
Wouldn't want to see that on Facebook.
Right. Well, let's talk about this a little bit because this is sort of a really, this is that literally just reminded me of something. A question. What level of integrity do you have with your wife, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend? What level of integrity do you have with that person? As opposed to what level of integrity do you have socially? You're going out to the dojo, you're going with a group to on a bike ride, you're going out to have,
Someone gave you too much change in the restaurant.
Someone gave you too much change in a restaurant. And then what level of integrity do you have in your workplace? So those three areas: home, social,
I'm gonna
workplace.
drop another one in, Doc.
Please.
What level of integrity do you have with yourself?
Absolutely.
So I think if you answer that question, 99.9 is going to be pretty good. 99 is pretty good. It's pretty high. That is gonna be how you show up in relationships, how you show up at work, how you show up in the general public.
Right.
Because if you're not integral, that's the right way to say that, integral, there you go, at work, you're not going to be at home either, I don't think.
Well, here's what I've experienced with people. And that different people have different levels of integrity at different places.
Oh, situational integrity.
Yeah, it's like, like I will work with people where they say, yeah, everything's great except at home, or everything's great except at work, or everything, And one of my questions, and I hear it more like, yeah, work is great, but boy, home sucks. I don't know what to do with home. And people love me at work.
Mm.
And this is just in one of my ponderings the other day. I think I was cleaning up horse manure. A lot goes through my process, my
I've only
mind.
been doing that for 50 years.
Right. And when I'm doing that, it's actually part of a meditative process that I do.
Sure.
And my question is if people where you work saw how you treated your wife and or children or partner, what would they say? What would they say about what the tone of voice is that you would use? What would they say about the shortness that you have? What would they say about creating an opening? What would they say about those kinds of things? And
sorry, my Joker brain just kicked in.
Okay, keep going. Go.
I'm calling HR.
Yeah, I wonder, I guess maybe marriages need an HR department. That could be, there's a gig. We should put together a website, Mark. HR for marriages.
But it's a very good, again, it's if the camera, let's go back to our watcher, right?
Yeah,
If my watcher's direct feed was into the break room at work,
yeah,
how just
exactly.
everybody just sit with that for a second. If you have a camera on, you got your watcher on, but it's live streaming to the break room at work. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, like think about that. That's actually sort of gives me the EBGBs. Like, okay. And, you know, do we do things at home that we would never do anywhere else?
I'm gonna guess the answer is capital letters, bold print, 48 point type. Yes.
Italicized, flashing.
Yeah. Right.
So, so think about that. Think about because one of the pieces, and you've alluded to it, is not only you're not using the word yet, but it's like not only integrity. Um, oh gosh, this word was just flashing. Congruence. Are we
Mm.
congruent? You know, are you and I, for instance, incredibly kind to each other here, and then as soon as we get off, we go to somebody else? Are we? And there's a book I actually want to throw out here. It's by Martha Beck. Um, I think it's called The Way of Integrity. One of the things that, and I wish that I had come up with this term. I did not, and I clearly will give credit to Martha Beck because, but it just rocked me around what she calls running the hustle.
Mm.
What hustle are we running? And it can be like we running a hustle with each other. Are we running a hustle with, acting in a certain way to get a certain thing? Are we running a hustle at work? Are we running a hustle financially? Are we running a hustle? Um, I mean, even in the business world, are we, for instance, providing a service so we can upsell versus just providing a service? Um, are we? What's the hustle that we run? Are we running a hustle with ourselves?
Mm.
And this is coming back around, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know,
Which is, you don't want to be discovered. Like, I don't want the hustle to be discovered. Oh,
exactly,
God, you were hustling me. God, I didn't
exactly.
even see that. That was good, but you ran a hustle on, dude. You just did that, didn't you? Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
did. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
did.
did.
Yeah, I did.
So, you know, and even as small as, I mean, I was going through, like, when I'm reading this, like, what hustles do I run? Well, one of them is there's these great caramel chocolate things with a little bit of salt on them, where it's like, I'll just eat one in the middle of the day and go, that won't affect my weight. That won't affect anything else. No one will know. I deserve it. It's like, what? Yeah, yeah. It's like, I wish I could sit here and say I don't run any hustles, but I would be running hustles if I said that I didn't run any hustles. Um, and it's like, what hustles do we run? Do we? And it's like part of that feels to me like it's ingrained in our society.
Mm. We all do it. I wonder when we learned how to do it. It's part of manipulative behavior. It's part of, we probably learned it when we were 3 or 4. We learned that if we cried, we would get our way. Or if we did something, we would get our way. It's part of the hustle, right? It's how do I have to change myself to get something that I want? What do I need to do? I need to appear to be definitely caring about what you want, because what I really want something. There's
Yeah.
something I really want. And some people would call it a hidden agenda, right? I've got
Yes.
there's this thing, which is all part of this. Are you running a hustle? Running a hustle has a visualization of, guys standing on a street corner running a hustle, 3 card Monte in New York City, right? Where I lost $100. I admit it. Um, and my
Butch
then,
Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
yeah, you're running a hustle. So that gets back to integrity. And I wonder, is it possible to actually exist in a hustle free life?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I want to wrap around real quick. And I totally got your piece around the 3-year-old crying to get what they want. What I want to make sure that we're not suggesting is that every time a 3-year-old cries, they're trying to run a hustle.
Right.
Because I know that you don't believe that. I know that you
No.
were giving me.
We're kind of where I was going was like, that's, I think hustling to get something, or being manipulative to get something, or being out of integrity to get something, or do something, or, to your point, to justify having the chocolate, you'd run the hustle on yourself. It's not being truthful. That is learned behavior, in my opinion. And so, because it gets rewarded, like you do that thing and, oh, that worked. Really? Oh, well, I'll do that again. So my conversations with others around early childhood stuff is that happens somewhere between 3 and 7, where you learned that kind of behavior got you what you not rewarded, but it was a winning play to do that.
Well, it's a winning play, and probably the biggest hustle that we run as kids is that when mom says no, we go to dad, and when dad says no,
Right.
we go to mom.
Right.
And then mom or dad says, well, what did dad say? Well, dad, yeah, he said it's okay.
Didn't exactly say
Yeah.
no.
So I think the first piece, and I love your question about, can we live a hustle-free life? And I think the answer is yes. And the first thing I'd like for people to do is spend 48 hours writing down every hustle they run that they're aware of.
It crossed my mind a few minutes ago. Yeah.
See,
Audit.
we're
Do a hustle audit. There you go.
a hustle audit. And don't try to change anything. Don't go, oh shit, I'm running a hustle, I'm going to change that. Just
Just
observe
log.
it.
Note. What do we learn in meditation? Noting. Just
Yes.
note it. No judgment. Observe with interest.
Yes. And so I want to tie a piece in here, because you did to me, what was actually a brilliant thing, where you, and I don't know quite the name of this particular app that you found, but where you can ask the app something and it'll give you information. And one of the way you described it to me, you said, well, as a 20-year-old, what 10 things should I know in life? It's a 30-year-old, those kind of questions, which it's like, that would have never crossed my mind to do that. Wonder where, in the things we know, should we have learned about not running hustles? Or is hustling one of those things that we learned as a coping mechanism or a protective mechanism? Because this hustle thing, I mean, it really hit me hard, and it's like I'm going, okay. And I think that we as humans do this, and we're not, and it undermines our integrity. Like, we have a cat who, he doesn't run a hustle. At 5:30 in the morning, he starts knocking stuff off of counters and finding paper bags to make a lot of noise, and
Because he
runs
wants to
all
be
over.
fed.
Yeah, he's there's no hustle in it. It's like, Dad, it's time to get up. Did you hear me knock that glass off of the counter? Did you hear that, Dad? Same way with my horses. I mean, I step out in the morning and I hear, they're not running a hustle. It's like there's nothing,
There's no guile.
there's no guile in there. And it's like, what do we do with this? Because, and I think it's a major hustle when we treat our family, when we treat our spouses, our partners, our children different than at work. Because, you know, so many times I will hear, you know, somebody will get arrested for domestic violence, and everyone will say, I can't even imagine that person hitting.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah. I can't imagine that they would do that. I can't imagine they would do that. You know, or, so what are the hustles that you run, folks?
I love this idea of, for 48 hours after listening to this show, that you, whatever's the easiest way, make it simple, don't make it hard. If it's a piece of paper or it's a voice memo, it's whatever is easy for you. If you catch yourself in a hustle, so we're going to need to fine tune our little awareness radar here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Really, really fine tune it, because I think some of us, I'm not immune. We're human. We do this, are so good at it that we may not even recognize it anymore. And so that's part of the
Yes.
challenge as well, I'm guessing.
That's part of the challenge, and that's part of the running the hustle on ourselves.
Yeah. And if your watcher was on, which is a non-judgmental, it's just a camera. It's no judgment. It's just that's what I saw. And you were to watch that, you'd go, oh, okay, I see what you mean. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I see what you mean.
And part of what I want to build into this is are the numerous ways that we can run a hustle. And here's an example. Let's say that someone isn't feeling great. They go, I'm fine.
Mm.
Their partner says, why don't you get that checked out at the doc? I'm fine. I don't need a doctor. We end up running a hustle on ourselves. Or Yeah, I'll take out the garbage. Don't worry, babe. I got the trash covered. When there's no intention at all of getting up and doing it.
There's commercials. There's a commercial run by, I think the insurance companies are battling each other on how to be more clever doing commercials, because
Hmm.
Geico kind of started that. But it's the one where the
Oh,
the instant replay in life, right? Same thing. There's a camera. We were saying something. The one I remember is the couple going camping, and she goes, "Where are the life vests?" Oh, I thought you were bringing them. No, you said you were bringing them. So, oh, I didn't say I was bringing them. You said, oh, let's go to the replay, right? And someone walks up, they have the camera, and they look, and she says, I especially love the part. He says, I'd never forget leaving the life vest or something like that. That's,
hmm.
again, being able to go back to the camera and say, happened 2 days ago. My father-in-law bumped into the door. I said Kimberly was doing a recording, and he was coming. I said, please be careful, be quiet, because she's recording. Let's just do what we need to do. And he turns around and hits the doorbell. The door was bing, bing. And I said, hey, just because I didn't do anything. It's just the doorbell didn't ring. I said, oh, I want that camera right now so bad.
I want it
Play
so
that,
bad.
or I want to play it back. So let's challenge people. I'd be really curious to hear if anybody does this, or at least thinks about this. It reminds me of, we have a mutual friend named Marla, who is a proponent of a way of working called ethical selling. And she
Mm,
teaches ethical selling, which
hmm.
is where I think running a hustle is pretty predominant, in that world. It's like, I'm
Absolutely.
got to sell somebody something. And she proffers a way of looking at selling, which is not that at
Right.
all. Right. So it can be done.
It can be done. So he put out the challenge of keeping track of running the hustle. Because here's what hustle turns into.
Mm,
Hustle turns into lies. And there's different level of lies that we tell. But one of the pieces that I also want to challenge, and I mean, full disclosure, I came down from feeding the horses this morning was listening to this book. And one of the things the author of the book is challenge yourself with was like a no lie week,
mm,
like literally spending a week without telling a lie. And because that's what's underneath the hustle. So I walked in the door and, Kimberly greeted me again with a smile and a twinkle in her eye, like she does virtually every morning after feeding, and had already made my breakfast for me, which I'm deeply appreciative. I said, what do you think of this thing about like the no light week? And and we were sort of going, well, I don't know, it's a little scary. And Kimberly's wonderfully humorous way, she says, I'll do it. Then about 3 seconds later, she goes, I lied. And it's like, and as I thought about it, I'm going, you know, this could be a real challenge if I do that. And after a little bit of thinking about it, I was going, the person that I probably have the hardest time with never lying to is her.
mm,
And I don't lie to her. I mostly, if there's something that would be considered a lie, it's usually something that I just don't say.
mm. The
And
sin of omission.
yeah, and not, and usually if I really look at that, it would be I would withhold saying how I felt about something, or that we needed to hurry up. It's not, they're not big, and they're big. if you think about that. So my next question, challenge is, are you willing to do a no lie week?
Mm.
Now, don't lie to yourself about that. Whoever that, it's like, sure, I'll do a no lie week. And then, and this, I think, becomes this habit thing that you were talking about. We just do it and don't even know about it.
Right.
And it's like, are you willing to do a no lie week? And I think there's two things with that strike me. One is that's sort of scary. And two is, if I'm really going to have a no lie week, I have to also be cognizant of how I don't tell lies. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. And staying with the logging, like it I wouldn't expect that you could go through a week without doing that, but at least write it down or note it. Have some consciousness of it. Said,
exactly.
oh, wow, this is that. Guess what? We're probably unconsciously competent at telling lies.
Totally. And unconsciously accepting of the lies that we tell, because and here's what I mean. I want to circle back around to this just briefly, is that if I'm going to say, for instance, something to Kimberly that I may withhold at other times, but I'm choosing not to during my no lie week, I need to be very conscious of how I say what I say. And I can't even think of something to make up right now, but it might be if there's something that I'm going, well, I don't really appreciate the way that you did that. If I say, you did that and you're a piece of shit, that's different than saying it from a relational way. So, because I also see, and I've seen people run hustles that are, I don't lie to anybody, and I just say what I need to say, and anyone can do whatever they want to do with it.
That's called justifying your assholeness.
Yes, and that in itself is a hustle. So think about that one too. So, I mean, and what I would really like to do, I think is it 2 weeks from now that's the end of the month where we do the question answer? Is that 2 weeks? Let's do a follow-up on this in 2 weeks, and let's put this out as a challenge for men, and make this one of the, when we do the Ask Me Anything live one, let's ask this, and maybe we can put that out. Maybe we can ask Dave to put, or we can put it on, really looking at this piece with people.
Doc, I love that. I think that's a great way to start our weekend. Let's start. I love small wins. So I'm going to have a no lie weekend.
Perfect.
Let's see how we go with that.
Wonderful.